friends, it's Jeff. Many of you know we've been working on big things at aroundthecircle.org. First, we had 10 new members in August, and as we promised, we donated their August dollars to the Weld County Food Bank. This will provide 600 meals for food insecure people in our town in the memory of Robin Williams, and we're very grateful for them. Second, we're going to create a new monthly tier at Around the Circle. This is the $125 tier for those of you who are really serious. This is going to include everything that the normal $20 membership includes. Weekly videos, extended interviews, question and answer with us, our audiobook, but we're adding 1 hour per month of mistyping with me or 90 minutes of me leading your book group of 5 or more readers. Most of you have heard our mistyping conversations. If you've been interested in doing mistyping with me, or you have someone you care about who wants to sit down, sign up. We'll send you a link. Or if you are leading a study through our book, Around the Circle, sign up. I'll meet with you online once a month until we're done, or until the next book comes out, or until, I suppose, you feel like you got what you needed. Thirdly, we're going to add 2 big additions to our $20 membership. Coming November 1st, we will be hosting a monthly Saturday morning workshop for all members, including free members in 2025. This is going to be hosted by myself, by Katie Whitlock, and we're going to be talking about numbers in excess, which is a vital topic, and I hear 0 people talking about it. We already have 25 people signed up, so go there for this. Second, Katie and I are going to begin posting a regular video cast on Sundays called Rewired, in which we're going to tackle topics in Enneagram world that are seldom discussed but need some heavy attention, and we'll start with a half dozen in-depth episodes on the Enneagram and gender. And third, we're going to begin sending our invitations to be on our stress and security panels in 2026. We want people who want to talk to us about their type. These will be recorded. These will be in-depth discussions and available only to members. So if you are interested in our best content, want to be involved in our conversations, go sign up. Presently, we have nearly 500 listeners who have a free membership at Around the Circle, and with those free memberships, they get access to unreleased interviews, access to early book chapters, and for the next 2 months, they're going to have invitations to all of our online workshops and panels. So go sign up, take a look at what we're doing. We would be thrilled to connect with you there, and huge thanks to all of you who have chosen to support us already for more than 5 years. You guys are the best, and I'm incredibly grateful. Hey friends, it's Jeff. We're doing another mistyping session, this time with Jackie Contessa, who knows her type, but also knows twos. We're talking about twos and mistyping for 2 reasons. 1, no twos actually tried to find out their mistype with me. And 2, I bet we know why. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, Jackie, I'm thrilled you're with me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. It's always so fun. And 2s are my soapbox. Sometimes I'm like, I don't really have much to say. 2s are my soapbox. So
you have so much to say and good things to say about 2s. Now, you have heard me say this, I know. And it's that there is a quick, easy, very unhelpful designation for 2s, which is that 2s are the helper. And this sidetracks 80% of mistyping that comes with 2ness in my mind, and it disguises some of the rich, beautiful strengths of actual 2s and what they bring to the world. And I want to talk about some of that as we go through this and talk about mistyping as a 2. So you got any introductory thoughts on 2s and mistyping?
Oh yeah, I've got so many. Are you ready? Buckle in.
I
often think about when I was on the first episode I ever did with you on 2s, and you said, I asked a few 2s and none of them wanted to help me. And I think of that often because I'm like, probably because they couldn't earn something from you. Like they didn't want to do it. They can't win you in some way. Being helpful is such a means to an end, and people don't realize that being essential and critical and foundational to people, like wanting to feel like you're a need to know person to a person. I am the least helpful person unless I'm not trying to be. Like every time someone has come to me, I was telling my husband this the other day, I'm just waiting for somebody to ask me so I don't get involved. because I know that when they ask me, I can help. But when I'm helping, I'm not that helpful. But I love being positioned as a need to know person. Every day I get an affirmation notification that says you're a need to know person. And I say thank you and I mark completed. But I don't want that from everybody. Like, granted, if you meet a 2 and the 2 real, like, they don't want you to hate them. If they think you don't like them, you're probably the next target and they're going to try to make you like them. But 2s and quote unquote being helpful and whatever it is that you think is happening, this is an exchange. What do they want from you? Probably nothing. That's why they don't want to help you.
I also think about that claim quite a bit, and it actually caused me to do what we're doing now, is to reconsider what is very likely a mistype of a person who said they were a 2. And I didn't realize it. And I come to the table. I'm like, you said you were an Enneagram 2? I'm trying to meet you in this space. Why are you not meeting me in this space? It's clearly something wrong with me, one that I am. And it's probably because they mistyped. And so there's like there's an invisibility, which I think is going to come up a lot with some elements of 2-ness, well worth describing and talking about. So
the way we generally talk about each of the types, we ascribe them like a trademark value, but it's all human. So like 2s are helpful, 6s are anxious. Okay, so if I'm taking an online test, like probably your friends who thought they were a 2, are you helpful? Do you focus on others? Are you emotional? Where's the pride? Like, I could be a 7 and answer like, yeah, to all of these. Like, I'm thinking about my husband, but he'd probably be like, yep.
Exactly right.
And he is not a 2.
Lots of common attributes. Actually, this is going to be most of our conversation today. Lots of shared attributes between 2s and other numbers.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Talk to me real quick about this. 2s, it seems to me, are probably the only number that have this happen to them, that it's very common, especially in America, for females to mistype as 2s. And it's probably very common in America for males to not type as 2s.
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of that comes out of the language and how we're describing 2-ness again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think like speaking in the binary, I think it's very easy. Like speaking in the binary, male, female, if we have an idea of a type that is based on the absolute reduction of an archetype, when I talk to people about instincts, self-preservation, social, sexual, they themselves sound like Enneagram types, right? Like you listen to the self-preservation instinct and you go, doesn't that sound a little blank type-ish? I don't want anyone to get mad. So I do think that like if we have an idea of a type, helpful, warm, nurturing, I don't know, what does that sound like? It sounds like what females tend to be. Now, I think we had this conversation prior. In some spaces, I have found myself to be what is considered to be the traditional trademark female 2 attributes. And in other spaces, like even in having my own business, I find myself leaning towards networking and connecting and the things that are attributed to the male version of 2. So I feel like male 2s often get, 3 and 7 because we are not looking at where we start. We're looking at what we could do or the idea we have of this archetype. And I do think a lot of 2s in general, whether they are 2s or not, can get typed as 2s. Like I think female 6s, certain subtypes of female 4s, 3s, especially if a lot of this is coming from the basis of communities, and communities have specific values. So we are already at a baseline. And we might think, well, it is in my values to be helpful and warm and nurturing. What about the manipulation piece? What about the pride? What about the giving to get? What about sowing seeds? That is a huge core part of 2 that people are not looking at. And they have to look at that in gender as a spectrum or not at all. Like I'm not looking at how is this expressing in male or female? Okay, male 8s do this, female 8s do that, and so on and so forth. I'm looking at pipelines of where people start and where they could go, period, within. And that's what we need to do. I think characteristically around people I trust, like, yes, I will fall apart and cry. I am a crier. I'm a certified crier. I'm like not like that in front of other people. That's something we ascribe to like male, twos or whatever. I don't think that's a thing. Male twos do this, female twos do this. I think we can rise and fall based on the environments that we're in and the things that are expected of us.
No, maybe there's more to say here. And I like that you immediately go, well, if we jump into a binary then. But in a culture like ours, there can be cultural expectations thrust upon genders. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the opposite side, on the male side. I'm thoroughly convinced that one of the great characters in film is a two. It would be the Godfather from the Godfather movies. If we were to describe the feminine take on two-ness, it wouldn't necessarily land on this person who is like the head of a very violent mafia organization. But all the motives are there, and they're very clear, and they're expressed in a way that is altogether, quote unquote, masculine, and yet is very, we could talk about all sorts of two attributes, from the giving to get, to the empathetic side, to the possessiveness, to the, external energy, to the high emotional intelligence. It seems to me worth naming for twos and mistyping that a huge roadblock in mistyping as a two when you're something else, or not typing as a two when you are probably gender cultural expectations.
I think that's a huge part of it. I think that that's a very, very big thing. I think in general too, we have cultural expectations on one end, but then when we're thinking about personality and archetypes and things like that, we take those cultural expectations and we put them into not incorrect knowledge, but very incredibly reduced knowledge of these types, right? Like we would talked about like, how are ways that we can know twos other than helpfulness? Because like if you're trying to measure a two by helpfulness, I'm cooked. Mm-hmm. Ask me about my intrusion. Ask me about my pride. Ask me about flattery is my flying carpet. Please excuse me. When we say, hey, twos by their manipulation, which is not for evil, but a roundabout way of getting what they need, because it's really brutal to acknowledge and brutaler to ask. And that's why we might be helpful or something else. We can know twos by their irresponsibility. We can know twos by their sense of self in relation to other people. Like we can know twos by so much more. We're looking at like, oh, you're so helpful. No, they're not.
Not always. Yeah. For reasons stated. Yeah. And there it is. So if that was the only clue that you had, this person is helpful, of course that's going to transcend the types. Sevens can be helpful. Nines can be helpful. Ones can be helpful. Threes can be helpful.
Humans can be helpful. Humans can be anything.
Generally.
Yeah.
This is about being a human being who cares about others, not necessarily about your Enneagram type.
And that's why I think it's really important the more I know about, like, if I'm being very, very honest, the people who I talk to the most about, going through their type, confirming their type, are people who've studied the Enneagram for so long that they can see themselves in all of it. And I'm like, welcome to being human. In a world where everything is available to you and you can go anywhere, I care about where you start. I want to know why you're going there. I can do every single thing that you do. And be more charming about it. Just kidding. I can do everything that you do, but I'm going to start with a different motive and go there for a different reason. Completely. And so when we look at help, why? Like, my husband goes out of his way to help people.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's the why.
Why?
It's the why.
Why?
Well, I want to start with, and we actually began already with a half dozen or so attributes that are qualities of two that have nothing to do with being helpful, just so we can kind of picture a personality separated from the stereotype.
Yeah.
And you already mentioned a couple of them, and healthy human soul that you are. These were exposing and the kind of the shadow side. You talked about intrusion, flattery, and manipulation. And that's a great place to say, look, do these ping for you as ways that you get what you want in the world?
Yeah.
You got thoughts on that?
My feelings are hurt. Honestly. Like
I'm quoting you to you.
I know. Shut up. Yeah. No, I don't have thoughts on that. Thanks.
The marks of two-ness come out. The Y comes out here. I've used the word attention seeking with threes and with fours, but Jackie, you are unique in being offended by the idea of attention seeking.
Well, so here's the thing. I think the word attention just hurts my feelings, but really what it is I'm not trying to, in the same way that like twos are not trying to get everyone to like them, though we want to make sure we don't want anyone to dislike us. We want people to, but being liked and whatever we use to get there, be it helpfulness or sacrifice or whatever this is really just like etching a role in people's lives and in hearts where at least you see me for one way and now I'm here and I'm here to stay and you're going to like me and you're going to love me. And so when I hear attention, it hurts my pride because it does tell me that it's a transaction, right? Now, meanwhile, like I find myself not seeking attention except for my husband, in the relationships that I have now because I don't need what comes from that transaction for my own personal fulfillment and for my sense of self. From time to time, we all slip, yes. But the word attention can be really, really hard because my pride protects me from what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is that it's so brutal to like look at myself and to love myself that I'm trying to go, well, Jeff loves me. Like Jeff thinks I'm, he invited me on the podcast and he likes me and he loves me and I'm lovable. But if you tell me I'm looking for attention, then I know I'm looking for that and I don't like it.
I think that twos, threes, and fours all kind of struggle with something that's core here, and that is that they're establishing their value through the opinions of others. And that doesn't happen with the other two centers as much, I think, in terms of like kind of feeling like that's not a worthy move.
Which is interesting because the word opinion there is like other types might care about the maybe opinion or considerations of other people, right? In some aspects, but not all and not foundationally. But twos, threes, and fours are intuiting what they think people's opinions are based on what they think people's opinions should be of them, based on what they think is going to get them loved. You know what I mean? So it's all it's all super relative there, and it's exhausting. Like I think one thing we don't talk about with twos is that there are like times of, I think you actually mentioned it a little bit, hidden grief. You use the words hidden grief, but there are these moments where they feel like it's not, like who they are is not okay. It's not okay to be who they are. And they up the ante in their giving in relationships in whatever flavor they feel, like attention seeking. Oh my God, you're right. Oh my God, you're right. Damn. Yeah.
Nothing, and that part of it, there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you're wired. It's worth naming. It's worth naming why that actually is not necessarily unhealthy, but actually maybe part of the healthy, holistic, I'm an embodied human being in community way of being in the world. Because so many of us so value the high focus on relational connection that's coming out of hard types because we can't do it. Jackie mentioned hidden grief. I got a short list of attributes we're going to go down. These all come from the Great Around the Circle book that was just published. Great. I'm going to, there's pride. I'll push into my two.
I have it right there. It's a great book, guys.
In the back, there's a handful of lists. We're going to be pulling from the two list. And when we get into mistyping, we're pulling from the mistyping charts there in that book. Well worth getting into. If you like this material, want to see more Around the Circle, it's only the print version that the appendices are in. But starting with hidden grief, that's not something that I hear a lot of folks come out and say, here is a defining attribute of twos, but that came into your language quick.
Oh, twos are often seen as like cheery and like bubbly, and like twos also can be known for their overcompensation, right? Like they are overcompensating for something. And part of being in the positive outlook triad, right? This is 2, 7, 9. is an element of overcompensation. If you are not going to see the whole picture, you have to overcompensate for the part that you're not seeing, right? And so there's a hidden grief because unlike nines can numb and sevens can reframe, but twos just push past in their, I'm using giving reductively, but giving towards other people because it's like a slot machine. You know what I mean? You win some, you lose some, but my God, do you win some? And it's quick. But that grief is known to them and it's there and it's hidden and it gets pushed down, repressed. That's why when the dam bursts, people are like, my God, you're so dramatic. And it's like, there's a lot happening underneath here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an excellent way to put that. There is, for 2 7s and 9s, I really want you to think a certain way. Is just a posture that those numbers are in the world. And that means, and it's I want you to think in a positive way. And that means that you're sacrificing, some of the things that might be going on. That was excellent. I have external energy. A lot of types that type is too don't have the external energy that actual twos have in the world. Like they're going toward you. Yeah.
Which is interesting. I think one thing I will say is self-preservation twos are a little bit more, the external energy is not to be confused with extroversion or with like a lack of ambivalence in connecting. All twos are ambivalent about connecting, but the self-preservation twos most so, right?
That's a good word.
And so I think when we think external energy, we're not talking extroversion or not being shy necessarily, right? We're talking about an energy that goes from us to other people. Like that's where we are expending so much of our energy, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, right? So I think I know a lot of self-preservation twos who are very introverted. That is not to be confused with being a withdrawn type, which self-preservation twos can look a lot like fours, and some, fours can look like twos, right? So being withdrawn versus being sort of ambivalent about connecting, but having an energy that goes outward towards other people specifically to connect. I want to know what you're using to connect, and I want to know why, but yeah.
Spot on. When I'm saying it, it's that twos can take the initiative in etching out a role in the lives of others, which feels like an external move. I think you're exactly right to say some twos won't come across that way. Here's the external, is that you are processing whether or not you're doing well in the world by looking outward at others. And fours don't do that. The 4 is going to look inward hard and consider their emotions, and the 2 on the very opposite side isn't going to look inside at all. They're going to look outward. And on the mirror side, other people as mirrors for if I'm loved and valuable, that's where that external energy is going to be located. It's I'm on the front line doing my thing. Are people responding to what I'm laying down?
Yes. And 4s are very relational. They are very connecting. They do love to connect. I mean, they are intuiting data in one way or another, right, about their place in the world and their belonging. But 2s do not push energy or prefer their quote unquote inner world. Like if I'm putting 2s and 4s next to each other, 2s are like, what do you mean inner world? Me, myself, a coach. Okay. A coach who is like, I feel like I push into the healthy 4 space and I'm like, what do you mean inner world? One more thing I have to do, get out of here. Right. So 4s have this inner world, and it is rich, and it is it's full of everything that they want, that they like. That is a huge difference between the two of them. Yeah. No inner world for me.
4 is very aware of their grief, for
their
example,
everything.
To go back to what we just talked about.
Yeah.
The good distinction there. We'll come back to 4s. Yeah. The possessiveness is something worth talking about, because once you get in, especially to the 2's inner circle, and 2s, 5s, and 8s all hold a very small inner circle. But once you're there in the life of a 2, that's something that I don't see a lot of people commenting on with 2-ness.
Yes. And I think, like other things, the security of, I just want to make sure our relationship is not threatened is a very normal thing, but is a need. And twos won't make contact with that, nor will they express that, right? And so it makes them incredibly possessive. I was talking with another two friend, and she had introduced me to like a friend of hers that she's come to know, come to love, and I've come to know and love this person. And she said, you know, years ago, I would have never introduced the two of you because it could have been threatening. And what I find is interesting is twos can be so highly possessive, which includes being possessive of decisions that people make or could make or things that they think are good for them. And that can start to look like they're being protective and look eight-ish, right? I think there is a finer line between 2 and 8 than we think. Like I think we think one's a lamb and the other is the slaughter. And it's just so not the case at all. I do think types have an incredible, like, you can cut this out if you need to, but we need to get our heads out of our asses about this idea that like we are the opposite of our stress type. It's a very natural progression of like where we could go. And that line is really, really thin. It's just about our management and our behaviors and things like that. So twos that can be in their average to unhealthy states can get really, really, really possessive. And when very unhealthy, it looks like being protective, but it's that intrusion and possession over ownership of people and the relationship, because it's threatening to their sense of self to not have what they established anymore. And this hurts a piece of me too to say this out loud, but like I have to work against what I start intuiting as data when other people like love another person. My immediate reaction is like, and then I'm like, wait a second, shut up. like that doesn't threaten anything. It doesn't threaten, because it doesn't threaten me. Like and I start boiling it down and I'm like, oh, someone else's joy doesn't threaten me. But really what it is the more possessive a two is getting, twos, if you're listening, ding, 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 the more possessive a two is getting, the more they think is worth losing on the other side of that relationship that they're overcompensating for. Like the more possessive I am of a relationship, the more I am trying to squeeze that thing for self-love if I'm a two. That is 100, like possessiveness is the other side of the coin of a lack of self-love, because we're looking for things to complete us. This is mine. If I hold this close to my chest, it's part of me. It makes me me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where you're finding identity. It's also where you're finding happiness, fulfillment, and a sense of, am I good in the world?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is, as it's coming out, it feels like it's spun negative. I don't think that's necessarily a negative, because that kind of rich expectation for the close relationships that twos desire can be incredibly valuable to a lot of us. The thing that I was hearing as you were talking was twofold. One, a fantastic way to find type is whether or not, if you're a two, is to ask the stress move question and say, do you get into 8 space? Because that move is very unique in terms of moving from 2 space to 8 space in stress. So, and in fact, in all numbers, if you're looking for type, considering the stress move really matters. The second is that I think twos don't think they have boundaries half the time. And the rest of us see the severe boundary that's taking place. And it's, am I in the inner circle, and has the possessiveness taken hold? So there's a two that I care about. I'm not allowed in the inner circle. I'm very aware I'm not allowed in the inner circle. And that's just fine. That's just fine with me. I don't need to be part of the inner circle. I'm not getting my value. See, one that I am, I'm not getting my value from your inner circle. The thing, however, is that from the outside, I can see, oh, this is how the care is lavished in that space, for good and for ill. It might be overwhelming care for some of those in that space. But I think the boundary is really there. If you enter in, then it means the two is vulnerable. There is a sense of I am you and you are me. And there is a sense of I'm going to give you all my best, and I expect giving in return.
If that person's not a healthy two, that's a fortress. It's like you need to come in here.
Yeah.
And you can't ever leave, but you have to also be in here and you're allowed in. Because I think...
Can I ask you a question on that? Because I think that's right. Like, so the person I'm imagining it's their family. Like they have a very family oriented way of being in the world. And so it's almost given, maybe an excuse for creating the fortress is this is the family. If you're in the family, this is how things go. If you're outside the family, then it's a little bit different.
Well, so no, I will. Okay. This is how I describe boundaries. Because if we're working with anything that is you out, me in, you this out, this in, that's walls, fortresses, moats, all of that stuff. But the way I define boundaries when I'm working with clients, especially when I'm working with twos, is a boundary is always an attempt to keep the relationship. Period. Right? A boundary establishes where you end, where I begin, all that stuff. So my definition of a boundary is it is a life rule that helps the people you love and the people you don't have access to the best side of you if you want them to have it. So are we good at protecting what we have and not letting anything else in? That sounds more like jealousy, and not jealousy like I'm jealous of you. Like jealous, like I have something, it's established, this might threaten it. To flip that on its head, I'm not an ultimate definer of things, but the way I define boundaries is this life rule that helps both of us have access to the best side of me. Twos don't do that. They don't have that data. When they do, that's when the turmoil starts. Because like one of the things about twos is like they're going to keep their problems to themselves until they are absolutely ready to do something about them. And then they are not going to stop talking about them.
Yes.
Because they don't want to know until they're ready to do something. And then they're going to listen to what everybody says and then do what they want otherwise and then cry about it. But that's fine. But
is it to everybody or is it to only the
No,
the
it's not to everybody. It's to the very closest. However, it depends. It is to one of the things I find with twos is, and I tell them, you must talk to somebody you love who has standards for you. Because what twos do, they will find other twos, or other people who tend to be sort of permissive with themselves or permissive with not wanting to, like, you know, the friend that's like, I don't know though, because they don't want to be responsible for giving you advice or tell, like, I often find when a friend of mine has a friend who's a two and they need to like speak sort of directly to them, I say, well, one thing you have to do is risk being the bad friend because they're not expecting that from you. And I'm not saying give unsolicited advice, but like twos like don't really want to hear it. So they're going to talk to people who are sort of permissive with themselves because they want to be validated. I think twos really, especially I'm thinking of like, let's say romantic relationship, like we want to air out the struggle, but like we don't want the real solution. We don't want to hear, oh, no one ever does anything once, babe. Walk away. We don't want to hear that. Nope. We want to hear, that sucks. You guys are going to work it out. He loves you. Have you guys tried therapy? Like, you know what I mean? That's the friend they're going to go to. Yeah. Twos are irresponsible. Solid. People don't realize that. Like, what's the difference between twos and ones? Twos are irresponsible. Twos are like trademark irresponsibility.
In what sense?
In a lot of senses. So it really depends. There's the practical sense where twos can absolutely bypass anything that they have to do for themselves, including like sticking to their budget to pay like their rent if it means like going out with their friends and like, you know, like blah blah blah, like
sure
right, there's to the tangible stuff, never taking care of my health, drinking water, having a vegetable, because people don't realize like not investing in themselves is like a root issue. Like, you know what I mean? Like the lack of care in self is a root issue. And like adult twos can have lots of tangible problems from a like literal self-neglect, and they can be irresponsible in that way. They also elect to essentially outsource everything, including their needs being met, emotions being felt, different things like that. And it's incredibly irresponsible. They're maybe underactive in their own lives, overactive in other people's lives. Irresponsible.
I'm gonna spin both of these positive.
Of course you are.
On one front, this is another typing clue. Twos don't have an anchor in the future. The future is just not there for the two. And what is there for the two is the past and how relationships have gone and whether or not they feel loved right now. And that's the natural flow of the two in the world, is just being reminded of all the relationships that they have ever had and how they've all gone, and how do I experience the love and the am I lovable now? And that the irresponsibility, quote unquote, comes out of that. It's just an inability to really get into the future. And all of us have blind spots.
Yeah.
And that's just the one worth naming.
I also think too, like irresponsibility, being responsible, like at its most reductive is doing what you need to do, doing what needs to be done, doing what is yours to own, right? And twos can't make contact with what they need. How can they make contact with what they need to do? They mean well. None of this is to say they don't mean well, but we are incredibly irresponsible. Like, I have systems around systems around systems that automate this, that ping that, because I have just told myself this is a non-negotiable because, and I'm not trying to talk down on myself, but like I have a tendency to let things slide because I get lost in X, Y, and Z, but these things cannot slide, period. But like, there's a huge element of irresponsibility that, and a different element of responsibility and agency that comes up when twos make regular contact with the things that they need and honor the things that they know that they need. It starts to reestablish that sense of responsibility and agency. I'm going on a tangent.
I think this kind of wraps up just the big idea of here are some qualities of twos that really need to be considered by other types, by those who are seeking two as an option in their typing. Is you're outlining how suppression of desire really works in the mind of and heart of a two. It looks a little reckless. It looks a little like it has lack of forethought, but because so much of that energy is going toward how can I ensure the connection and love that I so crave right now. And that might mean that I just don't care that much about personal finance.
No. And we have our eyes out for meek, responsible people who are going to show up at our doorstep with a casserole. We're not looking for someone who literally has not paid an iota of attention to themselves because they're like trying to take validation or get a sense of self from other people. What they do to other people reverberates back to them. I mean, I often use this picture when it comes to like twos and taking care of themselves versus others. Like taking care of themselves is like farming. You go back, you check on the seeds, you have to water it every fucking day. Like, but taking care of others, doing stuff for others, that's that slot machine. You might win some, you might lose some. When you win some, it's bing, 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 and it's loud and it feels so good and you get attention and all of that stuff. Farming sucks and it smells and it takes too long and there's no output. Tomatoes, okay, cool. Like, I love tomatoes, but you know what I mean?
So I'm going to say, again, I'm going to spin this as a positive. That I love people who actually put forth investment in others. Like, it doesn't happen all that often. And I find myself pushing in my two wing quite a bit here in recent years. I'm giving you all the good things, knowing I'm going to lose 70% of them. And unfortunately, that's apparently that's how the world works. But those 30% I'm going to hit on, and those are people I'm going to likewise invite into my circle and be much more targeted in my giving toward. And I don't think that's a bad way to be in the world, because some people showcase themselves to be losers. Some people showcase themselves. There's a saying about throwing your pearls before swine. It's hard, but sometimes you do throw the pearls because you can't see whether or not people in front of you are pigs yet. Yeah. But you had mentioned it in terms of outsourcing being a negative, and it pushes into that transactional nature of twos, fives, and eights at some level. But I don't think that's bad either, because that's how you are in the world.
You have to have a limit, right? One of the things, and the fours are the ones that like this the least. But when I'm coaching, I'm like, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make who you are neutral. Neutral. You get to choose if you go up or down from here, right? But I mean, I think I mentioned this to you earlier we were talking about eights, and I used the word insensitivity. That's not a slander. That's just a word that defines something that somewhere someone can go. So I love the fact that who we are is neutral. It's not bad that we have a limited, being transactional in some ways is not bad, but everything in moderation, including moderation. But still, we have to have our limits, and we can choose if we can see things as just are or neutral, we can go up or down from there.
Yeah. Lovely. Going to transition to these typings. We're going to start with talking about those who are struggling between ones and twos. and what ones who actually are mistyping as twos ought to consider, and what the real difference is there. Here's what I'm going to pitch. I'm going to pitch some of the things that are similar. And then, Jackie, you're going to come in and say, but here's the difference.
Okay.
So ones that mistype as twos are, as we kind of talked about, that external energy and external processing. Ones have that. Ones are reactive in nature. They are part of the same triad, that is, they're the same stance. They're in that responsive triad. Both ones and twos have a lot of duty going on in their language and a sense of responsibility to others, but the motive's different. They both are willing to sacrifice. Both have a care that comes out in a corrective kind of posture sometimes. They both will suppress emotions for different reasons. And they both are big earners in the world. And that's one reason a one might mistype as a two. What are the differences that you see?
Okay, so here's some differences that can have to do with similarities, right? So similarity, resentment, right? Twos can be resentful, ones can be resentful. But I think one of the bigger differences that I see with, twos and ones is where they start. And while being resentful is a human feeling, one of the types, type one, is resentful because they've suppressed their anger so much and it's leaking out and giving them gas. They're just burping up everywhere. And for twos, the resentment, it comes from unmet expectations, unmet needs, right? There's something in that transaction, right? When you pay for a service, you expect what you paid for. When you give something and you think it's going to be transactional, I give you love, you give me love. I give you like, you give me like. The resentment builds up because someone else is not holding up their end of the bargain. One of the things I think about for ones, and it's not to say that duty, because both types are, dutiful in that they can move towards other people with care. But I think anytime anyone does something helpful, it's always mistaken for empathy or for alleviating pain or something like that. We're talking about the good nature of two. Sometimes it's just duty and just doing the right thing. And that's where one is. Also for type one, it's out of betterment, a sense of responsibility, doing something. They're not necessarily looking for personal gain of any kind. The personal gain lies in the thing inside me shut up because I made this thing straighter or helped this person or did this thing or made it better or made it perfect before I released it to the world or whatever, right? So I think sort of why we help, right? When
Exactly right.
We're thinking of twos coming from a place of alleviating pain and getting something in the process, and we think of ones doing the right thing.
I phrase that as like the one is accomplishment oriented and the relational element isn't necessarily as important. And the two is relationally oriented. And what gets achieved actually isn't as important. And there's a huge distinction between the two and the why are you doing this for the other person.
Because if I kind of grew up with a one who basically said, like, if you love someone and you don't tell them something that you see about them, like you don't actually love them the way you think that you do, that's a one. Like that is a one right there. Like you don't love them. It is for betterment, right? But for twos, for me, it's about being crucial, about being liked. And it's not to say that ones don't have a relational element to them. They do. They absolutely do. But for twos, that shit's the line leader. That is the line leader. When we are thinking about doing the right thing, we are thinking about that there's a filter there of the right thing in regards to people, how they're going to think, what's the right thing about what they're going to think and how they're going to feel and how we're all going to be and all of that stuff. There's a relative right and wrong in ones. Yeah, and also twos explode emotionally differently.
Yeah, that's where I see the big distinctions is identity. We talked about it, that the two is finding their identity and value in the opinions of others, and that's not where the one is finding their identity and value. Identity and value for the one is in execution, and that might look relational. I'm helping Joe become a better man. It's the execution and movement that really matters, and it's not Joe's response to you, whereas the two desires Joe to say, you did all these things for me, and I'm so grateful.
Yes. And that's why even if some of the things that ones and twos do might look the same, what they're expecting is different. I think ones are expecting silence on the inside, and twos are expecting praise and clapping and kissing on the outside.
Last words on ones who may be mistyping as a two?
No, I don't think so. I think the one thing I will say is when it comes to like service, right? If we isolate service, we'll think, oh, just a two or whatever. But again, thinking about where you start is always really, really important. So I'm probably going to say that ad nauseum for all of the types, but why do you do what you do, not what you do? Because you're capable of doing anything, but I want to know where you start and I want to know why. So that's my thoughts.
All right, we're going to pick up the contrast of twos with the other 7 types next time. This ended up being a long recording and very enjoyable, so pick it up next time. Do check out all the rest of the stuff that we're releasing this week. Lots of new podcasts going to come up this week, so do stick around. And with that, signing off for Jackie, I'm Jeff Cook. May all good things be yours.